So we will be now taking this particular verse from the VISHNU PURANA, basically. It is the verse VISHNU PURANA 5.18.53. This is the verse. Na yatra, well, I can't read this verse properly. So whatever the verse is, na yatra natha vidyate nam jatadi kalpana tad brahma paramatma nityam avikari bhagava aja na kalpanam triyasya sarvasya dhikamayatah tatha krishnachutama vishnu namabhi idyasi. So the translation given by Jiva Goswami is as follows: O unborn Lord, you are that eternal non-transformable Parabrahma in which there are no kalpana of name, form, species, etc. However, without kalpana, no object of this world can be understood, and for this reason you are glorified by eternal names like this: Krishna, Achyuta, Vishnu, etc. So here the Mayavadis are laying a very powerful Siddhantic problem for us, where they say that this shloka seems to be kind of referring to something like this. It seems to be in which Akrura seems to be saying that, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, although in your Brahman there are no question of any form of kalpana, basically of name, form, and such kind of things. Of kalpana of such things don't exist in kalpana form, but we do this in the material world or in whatever world, so that because without such kalpanas we cannot actually understand. No object of this world could be understandable, and just so that we can understand the objects of this world and stuff like that, we have to form such kalpanic names such as Vishnu and everything. So this gives a very Mayavadic interpretation to the whole thing. So how do we understand this entire thing, this verse, which is beautiful verse actually of Akrura, which is explaining so many Siddhantas basically. So this is from Srila Prabhupada's teachings, which we will try to understand, and what Srila Prabhupada says, not exactly on this verse, but what Srila Prabhupada generally says about the whole thing. So for this, we will have to understand the thing that we have already discussed this many times before also. So Lord Krishna has got three primary energies. Now Lord Chaitanya also uses this three energy system to explain and destroy Mayavad. All the time he uses this system, basically, Lord Chaitanya. Again, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya also. So if you see here, Lord Krishna has got his primary energy, which is known as the Sandhini energy, and then the even more primary energy, Samvit, and almost they are all primary energies only. I'm so sorry. They are like Sandhini, Samvit, and Ladini. The three energies of the Lord. Okay. Now, when we understand this Sandhini energy, what is the Sandhini energy? It's a Sat energy, basically. It's the energy which forms everything of the spiritual, material, everything. All the worlds are formed through transformations of Sandhini energy only. She is like the body of Krishna. So the body of Krishna is created from Sandhini. Everything comes from Krishna, comes from Sandhini. So when we understand just that this energy is so inconceivable, like she's the existence potency of Lord Krishna, basically Sandhini, from which Krishna is born actually, not exactly born, you can say Krishna's body is created, even our soul's body is created, everything is created through this Sandhini potency of Lord Krishna. And because Krishna is a controller of Sandhini potency, it emanates from him. And that way Krishna becomes completely non-different from everything else. So when we say Krishna's name is non-different from Krishna's form, we are referring to Sandhini, basically. The Sandhini quality of Krishna we are referring. Because Sandhini creates everything else, and Sandhini also, the name is also coming from Sandhini, and therefore the Sandhini is non-different. So because Krishna is the source of Sandhini, and the names are also the source of Sandhini, Krishna being non-different. So Sandhini actually is non-different from everything else in this universe. So when we think about Krishna's name, form, everything, so we understand that Krishna being the controller of this energy, because this energy is emanating from Krishna, and Krishna is the source of everything else. Therefore, he is non-different from the whole universe. So we have last time discussed the four types of Achintya, Bheda, Veda, Tattva also, during discussing Shiva Tattva, and the second offense on the holy name. That video we have discussed how Krishna is absolutely, how the Achintya, Bheda, Tattva exists of Lord Krishna between the entire universe, like earth, water, air, fire, and Krishna, material world. Also, there's a different kind of Achintya, Bheda between Krishna and his internal potency, Antaranga Shakti, just like Sandhini, Samvit, and Ladini, how Krishna is non-different from these things, and how Krishna is non-different from also, and different from these things, and how Krishna is non-different and different from his Jiva Tattva soul. So, we'll not discuss that. It's a very detailed discussion. Again, we'll not go into that. So, when we understand that through this Sandhini energy, Krishna becomes non-different from everything else in this universal creation. Because he can invoke the principle of Shiva as when he's in the Putana, he can invoke Shiva and Lord Shiva can come and he becomes non-different from Shiva. Although he's Krishna acting like Lord Shiva, he's actually, nobody can distinguish. He's exactly like Shiva because he can create unlimited Shivas from himself also. So he's absolutely non-different from Lord Shiva when Krishna invokes Shiva. So when he wants to invoke Narayana during the Ras Leela of Gopis, then he immediately invokes Narayana and he becomes Narayana. It's not that he's playing the role of Narayana, so he's just playing the role. Because he's the absolute truth. Whatever role he plays, that thing becomes non-different from him because he's the absolute truth. We are just part of him. We are like part of him. We are not the absolute truth like him. So this part of the energy of Lord Sandhini actually makes the whole thing, somehow, because he is the source of Sandhini. He is the source of everything. He can immediately interchange anything, just like the deities of the Lord, wood, stone, everything. So because wood, stone is a part of Krishna's Sandhini energy. It's a part of Krishna's energy. So what he does is all he has to do is invoke wood, and he can play the role of a wood. He's acting like wood. He becomes wood, just like wood. And also it's Krishna, actually, not wood. It's not, but nobody can distinguish between wood and Krishna. Not in Brahma, not in Balram. Nobody can distinguish between. When he wants to play the role of wood, he becomes exactly like the wood because he is the source of Sandhini. Also, when he wants to play the role of a living entity, he becomes just like Brahma Vimohan Lila. He exactly plays the role. Even Balram cannot make the difference. So if Balram cannot make, that is reality itself. So there is no difference. The exact second set. He becomes Subal. He becomes all the cowherd boys. So everything he becomes because everything is coming from this energy. So and this energy is never exhausted. Even though the whole universe comes from this energy, the energy is exactly same. It has got the complete everything of the universe also within it. So, and it's connected. It's connected to the whole universe, and because it's connected to the whole universe, and that's why the whole energy is flowing from Krishna himself. So that is the point. So now we'll understand the three forms of realizations basically. So when we only understand this realization, the spiritual body of Krishna, it's like the body of Krishna, which is the whole universe. So when we understand this realization, Sandhini realization, what happens is that we only understand the Brahman realization basically. When we say Shuddha Sattva, that is actually basically understanding the kind of Brahman realization. Although spiritual world is a Shuddha Sattva, but in the Shuddha Sattva there is Ladini and Samvit also acting in there, spiritual world. In fact, Sandhini is assisting Sandhini is assisting Samvit and Ladini in the spiritual world. So that's why these effects of these things. So the spiritual complete absolute truth means where there's 100% Sandhini, 100% Samvit and 100% Ladini. When they're 100% present, then it becomes a complete absolute truth. In Brahman, only 100% Sandhini is present. In the sense, you only know that Krishna's body, you understand Krishna's non-difference from everything else. We know that Krishna is completely non-different from everything else in this universe. So Krishna is one with the universe. That oneness, that realization of that oneness with the whole universe, that Krishna's name is non-different from Krishna. The Krishna's name is non-different from Krishna Tattva. Krishna Tattva includes whole universe. So whole universe, all material, spiritual, everything is within Krishna Tattva, Krishna's name. So understanding the oneness of Krishna, name, form, quality, pastimes, everything has been non-different. Krishna's name contains the whole universe. It contains Krishna himself. Understanding the whole concept of oneness only. So it's like creative potential. Understanding Krishna's creative potential, or Krishna's how the energy which creates the whole universe. So just understanding, having a full understanding of that potency makes one reach the Brahman platform. So that's called a Sat realization. Krishna says that is Brahman realization. Sat means Sandhini realization. So when you understand Krishna's knowledge about Krishna, the Samvit potency is basically the potency by which we are alive. That's a cognizant potency, which primarily consists of knowledge. Because unless we have knowledge, we cannot be alive. So, but knowledge, and there is cognizance, and there is so many things. So that potency of the Lord is the Samvit potency of Lord Krishna. And of course, as we know that Krishna expands himself through function of the Samvit potency. Expansion of Krishna is nothing but function of the Samvit potency. You can't say Krishna expands because there is no time in which he expands and stuff like that. But the expansions exist as a function of Samvit potency. That's how we can put it. because what is happening, Krishna thinks himself to be different, it's a thinking potency. Like when he thinks that he is Balram, basically he's just thinking himself. It's the same person, but the thought process is different. When he thinks himself to be Vraja Krishna, when he thinks himself to that, when he thinks himself to this, so he changes he expands into unlimited forms basically. So that is eternally present as a function of Samvit potency. It's not that at some point Krishna thinks and then it happens. It's not like that. It's eternally things like that. So in the same way, the Jiva Tattvas are not thinking. It's not difference between thinking. It's cognizance difference. Krishna's Jiva Tattvas are cognizantly different. They think that they don't think, sorry. They are cognizantly different. They have a different cognizance. And Krishna has a different cognizance. Krishna has a universal cognizance. They only have cognizance of their own bodies. So again, the function is the same. So that's why Prabhupada says the Jivas also expansions of Samvit potency of Lord Krishna. So this potency basically is the knowledge, the life-giving potency, the knowledge-giving potency. Without this, there is no life. So you only understand that body of Krishna without life of Krishna. You only understand body, that is Brahman realization. This is the life of Krishna. It's a knowledge about it, how things are there, knowledge about Krishna, about his everything. So that knowledge is the Paramatma realization. You understand him as a person, basically. You start understanding him as a person. So that is the yogi's realization, Samvit realization, Chit realization. So there is Ladini in that also, a little bit like Brahmananda, Paramatma, Ananda, whatever that Ananda is there from that. So there is, but it's not very predominant. There are no Leelas in that understanding of Krishna, Samvit. Finally, the spiritual world where there is Samvit and Ladini is also there. So in Ladini is predominant. Everybody is completely, under the direction of Ladini. She's the supreme director, the pleasure potency, and it's all full of pleasure potency, and everything existence exists for pleasure, knowledge exists for pleasure, everything exists for pleasure in the spiritual world basically. So the complete understanding of Krishna is when these three potencies are fully present. That means that is complete absolute truth is happening. Only one potency is present, that is Sandhini is potent, that means only Brahman realization, it's incomplete realization. Okay. So now let us understand the example of a television set. In a television set, the television set itself, the hardware, the very television set itself by which everything is possible by the Sandhini energy, Sat energy. This represents the Sat energy, something like that. So it's a metaphor, of course. In the metaphor, the television, when we see a movie, what is the purpose of television? To enjoy rasas. That is the purpose. It's not about seeing the television or realizing the television, that there is a television, something like that. But the television, when it's switched off, that is Brahman realization, basically. Brahman realization, you just realize that there is a television, that's all. You don't have anything, what it does, how it does, what happens in that. There is no understanding of that. So the television is existing, but it is just switched off. So what's the use of the television? So it's like kind of a television understanding. So, but still, if Maya is going on in television, there is some horrible serial is going on in this television, where there is, horrible sexual things, and there is horrible violence and stuff like that is going on. It's better to have switched off television. So that is the whole idea of material realm. When they say that Rajoguna and Tamoguna, when you remove it off and only Sattva Guna exists, Shuddha Sattva exists, that is realization of absolute truth will happen at that point. So that's why the negative energies, the negative television should be switched off. Okay. So that's why Rajoguna and Tamaguna's effect, when it is removed from Sattva Guna, pure television is there. Sandhini energy is perceived at that time, like a television which is switched off. So the movie, the virtual world, ceases to exist, which is the projection on the television. But in the spiritual, if you switch off the television, what's the use? The television also has to have some other good programs, like Krishna Leela should be going on in this television also. So when the same Sandhi Shuddha Sattva has predominated by the Samvit energy of the Lord, which is a software by which you can basically have interaction in television. The sound is coming from television, light is coming from television, all this knowledge, these interactive elements like the sense elements are coming out of the television. So the knowledge about the sense elements, it's all about knowledge, So unless you have interactions with television through sound, through your sensory perceptions, so that knowledge part of the television by which you can, when the television is on with some kind of sound, there is some kind of light coming on from the television. So that is the Chit aspect of the television. So in the Chit aspect, Paramatma realization, the television is already fully 100% present. 100% Sat is there. Realization is completely there in Chit realization. But on top of that, you get the knowledge about Sat also. What is the Sat knowledge? That is the knowledge is that you understand who Krishna is, what is Krishna, what is who the person is. So you know him as a person. So the Paramatma realization is a personal realization of Krishna with Sat and Chit. But there is no Ananda, there is no Leela. But in the Leela, in the Golok Vrindavan, the realization is complete. There is a movie going on, and the movie is Krishna Leela. The Radharani is playing with Krishna, and everything is happening. So there's a director. The director is known as Radharani. She directs the movie. She directs what sound should come out, what knowledge should come out of this television, what knowledge should come out from this television, and the knowledge should have a meaningful knowledge. That meaning is how Radharani is doing Leela with Krishna in the spiritual world, all those things. So the spiritual realm of Golok Vrindavan is the complete realization of the absolute truth. The television, the knowledge about the television, and the movie that flows out of the emotions that flow out of the knowledge of the television. All three are 100% present in the Golok Vrindavan Leela of television. Now when the knowledge of the television, when the sound starts coming, then television itself is switched. You don't focus on television, you just forget the television. So many parts of the television are covered. We don't remember, okay, we are looking at television. We think that we are focused on the sounds, we are focused on the Leela. So we forget about the television. So covering the television by giving stimulus from the television, that covering is not something as something that is missing when you cover that part of the television. So what's happening is when these things cover the television, that is the complete aspect. So this is the energy of Krishna, like one third energy, one third energy, one third energy. So if only television is present, that is only one third energy is present, Brahman realization. When the television is covered by some certain kind of things, either good or bad, of course good. In the material world it is covered by Rajoguna and Tamoguna, that's horrible. But in spiritual world it is covered by Yoga Maya, potency of Lord Krishna, this television. And she will cover certain aspects of the television so that Leela can be facilitated. So when she covers this aspect of the television, Yoga Maya, what happens is it becomes enhanced. You start understanding. You forget about the hardware and you start focusing about the sounds that are coming and everything. And she works under the direction of Ladini. The knowledge about Krishna works under the direction of cognizance, works under the direction of pleasure potency. She works for the pleasure potency. So television's whole purpose is to give pleasure. So that is the purpose of television. So 100% pleasure potency exists in Golok Vrindavan, 100% knowledge potency exists in Golok Vrindavan, 100% existence itself is there in Golok Vrindavan. However, in the Chit potency, only the knowledge aspect is there about this and only the existence is there. And however, in the Brahman realization, only television exists switched off without any kind of knowledge. In the material world, television has got these two aspects also. The Ahankara, the Rajoguna aspect of Ahankara and the Tamoguna aspect of, this is the Rajoguna aspect of Ahankara and this Tamoguna aspect of Ahankara. The knowledge is the Tamoguna effect by which the sense perception is there. Not sense perception, the sense objects are created in the world and that is the Tamoguna. And the Rajoguna, the sense of the pleasures of the world, like the sense Indriya, Karma Indriya, Jnana Indriya, and everything by which senses, pleasures are experienced in this world. So, and the creation happens in this material world. The objects are arranged by this potency so that it gives pleasure to the senses in such a way that the senses are pleased. So all this creation is Rajoguna is happening. So this energy of the Lord acts as Rajoguna and Tamoguna. That is horrible in the material world. So somehow the whole purpose of the Vedas is to switch off the material, these two things. Rajoguna and Tamoguna should be removed. And only Shuddha Sattva should be present, where the television is switched off. But in the spiritual world, Shuddha Sattva is predominated by Samvit energy of the Lord and the Ladini energy of the Lord. So they again in the positive. This is negative and this is positive. So again, just Shuddha Sattva without any activity is Brahman. There is nothing in that television. There is only partial realization of television. When it is predominated by Samvit, who is controlled by Ladini, then spiritual realm, all the activities, leelas take place, and that is the complete manifestation of the television. Television, along with all the programs coming from the television, is the complete manifestation of television. Just switched off television is as good as useless. It's people will say, what's the use of this television? This is like Naraka for devotees. It's like, what's the use of this horrible nonsense television? So it's completely useless basically. So for they have no understanding. They don't want to do anything with this television. So similarly in Vaikuntha the television is covered by the Aishwarya of Krishna. So this is Sat is complete Aishwarya of the Lord, the complete existence. That Krishna is non-different from everything else. When that is covered in Vaikuntha to a certain extent, that becomes the Leelas where the Lord's Aishwarya is predominant. To the extent it is not covered, to that extent the full manifestation of Samvit potency is not there. Like Vaikuntha, the Samvit, the Yogamaya does not cover everybody fully. So the people are aware of Lord's greatness, His opulence. So therefore Vaikuntha is not considered that great. Dwaraka, the covering is there, but still the covering is even to a higher extent, where the opulence of the Lord are covered, but not to the. So this opulence or Aishwarya is considered negative. It's considered impurity. Even the person with the Aishwarya Bhav is not considered as a pure devotee in sense of spiritual terms. Of course, not in material terms is a pure devotee, but in terms of spiritual Leela or Bhav, the person covered with Aishwarya Gyan, or when the TV is not fully covered by Samvit energy under the direction of Ladini energy, then it is considered as Dwarka Leela. So then when Golok Vrindavan completely covered, all the Aishwarya, Krishna existing as simple covered boy. So all his Aishwaryas are covered. So covering, the whole idea what we get from the shloka of Akrura is that when we cover progressively and when we overcome this television with the programs and with stuff like this, we think, one may think that all this kalpana, everything is happening in this world. So what is the problem is that originally it is this television, but it's covered. But what we don't understand is the covering potency of the Lord, that is 1/3 potency. And the Ladini potency 1/3. So absence of this potency is incompleteness. So television without these two potencies is incomplete television. Okay. So the covering is good part. It's not bad part. Like when the television is covered, that covering means that it's completeness. By covering the television, completeness increases. It doesn't decrease. It's in the material world. We have an example that when something is covered, that we can only partially see that, and so that means that that thing is not perfect. It's only we only have partial knowledge of that thing. So covering means something is wrong, but here covering means something is right, because it is the right kind of covering. The covering actually means that this energy exists. The covering energy is displaying 100% potency, and it's one of the potency of Krishna. So, and similarly, the Ladini potency is also displaying 100% of its potency. So these three potencies should be present to say that this whole 100% absolute truth is there. Only one part is there. So covering is the better part, and the covering should be directed by the pleasure potency of Krishna. So when these three things happen, then only the absolute truth is there. Otherwise there is no absolute truth here. So we have to understand that. So now let's come back to the shloka, Akrura, when he says that, "Oh my Lord, in your eternal Brahman is non-transformable." So in that sense, the conceptions of Kalpana doesn't exist. So what is Kalpana? As per Wikipedia, if you see Kalpana means the difference between the object and the attribute of the object. Like for example, if you see Kalpana like a table and the name of the table, if you consider them to be different, name and table itself, so they are different. So when you consider that they are different from each other, that is known as Kalpana. That's like we say, when you say, "Oh my Lord," not Lord, say, "Oh table," in a material world, Jiva Tattva's name, for example, call, "Oh Mr. Modi, please come here," or "Mr. somebody, please come here." The name Modi is different from Modi himself. So it's a Kalpanic kind of understanding, in the sense that we are calling out, we are attributing a name to Mr. Modi, who's a different from his name, and we are calling him, and we are saying, "Please come here." Okay. So that is only Kalpanic understanding. Kalpanic means the name and we perceive a difference between the name and the object itself. We perceive a difference. Okay, so the perception of difference between the name and the object itself, or the form and the object itself, is Kalpana. So in the material world, Jiva Tattvas and everything, spiritual world also, we are always Kalpanic, because our names are different from the Jiva Tattva itself. So when we consider somebody like Mr. A, Mr. B, Mr. C, his names are different from his basic existence. His name, form, everything is different from his basic existence. But Krishna's, his name and form are all same, na? So Krishna's name is not different from Krishna's form. So it's not Kalpanic. So what he is trying to say is, "Oh my Lord, your Kalpanic forms don't exist in Brahman." So in Brahman, when we understand the Sat aspect of the absolute truth, the Kalpanic forms don't exist. Like we know that Krishna's name is completely non-different from Krishna. But then we have to understand something. If we think like that, then the problem will be that we cannot have any Leela in spiritual world. For example, Yashoda Maya is calling to Krishna, "Hey Krishna, come here." That statement, "Hey Krishna, come here," has no meaning. Why it has no meaning? Because Krishna himself is non-different from his name. So when Krishna is non-different from his name, what does the statement have a meaning? "Hey Krishna, please come here." Or when Agasuris wants to fight with Krishna, so when he understands that Krishna is displaying the complete, when these things are not covered, by progressive layers of samvit energy, when Krishna will display the entire universe is within Krishna. When how will Agasur himself is within Krishna? How can Agasur fight him? Or Krishna's friend wants to fight with Krishna. How can he fight? Because his opulence is so great that Krishna is the entire universe. So how can Krishna fight? When Mother Yashoda was seeing the entire universe in Krishna's mouth, she immediately lost her devotion. When Arjuna saw Krishna's Vishwarupa, he immediately said, "I don't want to see this. This is horrible." When Radharani to an extent sees Jagannath in an Aishwarya form, she says, I can't relate with Jagannath. You have to come to Vrindavan and remove that little bit of Aishwarya also. So the point is, you cannot have pleasure potency when you understand that Krishna's is everything else. When you understand Krishna's Sat potency. So this Sat potency has to be compulsorily covered by the Chit Chit potency or the Samvit potency. And only when the Sat potency is converted by Chit potency in progressive layers, that Leelas are also possible in progressive layers. For example, when in the spiritual world, the Leela is possible, like when Draupadi, in the material world, Draupadi is crying out, hey Krishna, come here. So what is she doing? She is giving a Kalpanic name. She is addressing Krishna in a Kalpanic form. It means she is thinking Krishna is different from his name, and she is calling out the person Krishna by calling out his name. Although Krishna's name is non-different, Yogamaya covers, and Draupadi knows that Krishna's name is non-different. So Krishna is immediately present in that name itself. But Yogamaya covers Draupadi. She covers Draupadi's thought process so that Krishna can have a relation with Draupadi, so that Krishna can come in the form of sari. Otherwise, how can Leela take place? So Yogamaya will cover Draupadi. Yogamaya will cover Yashodamaya. Yogamaya will cover. And this covering is not a negative thing. It's the highest, because the covering potency, when it exhibits, that completes the absolute truth. Without the presence of covering potency, one potency is missing. The covering potency is missing. That means only the Sat potency is present. That means the Brahman realization is incomplete. When this potency starts acting on the television, for example, television switched off is useless, but when this potency starts covering, so television is covered by the program within the television. So you forget about the television and you start focusing on the program. So this covering the television. So the covering potency is also an electronic form of potency, electricity, which covers the television, which starts giving projections on the television. So this electric covering potency, whatever this is, that is also an energy. Without electric energy, what is the television? Just television. So electricity is also required, and then the programs also required. Just electricity is no useless. The programs which will program the movies and emotions, that will decide how electricity is flowing through this television, so that particular forms are created in such a way that the perfect leelas are created. So just understanding this television is useless. So when we say Kalpanik, in the material world we do call out, we know Krishna is non-different from the name, but we still say, hey, when Gajendra calls out, hey Krishna, please come. When Dhruva calls out, hey Krishna, please come. When Prahlad says, my Narsimha is present in the pillar. So of course Narsimha is present in the Prahlad's mouth also. But the point is that leelas are not possible. So the devotees, although they know everything, they are covered by Yogamaya to understand, to give a Kalpanic understanding. So devotees address Krishna in a Kalpanic way in the material world, in a way in which the name is different from Krishna. Hey Krishna, come here. So the name of Krishna is different from Krishna himself. So it becomes a Kalpanic address to Krishna. So that Kalpanic address, where the devotee feels that the name is different from Krishna, is also a part of Leela of Krishna, and it's also a part of the Yogamaya potency of Krishna, and it completes Krishna. This Yogamaya covering, it doesn't degrade Krishna, it completes Krishna by enhancing Krishna's Leela. Because the potency, when it is absent, that is lack of potency. When Yogamaya potency is present fully by covering the Sandhini potency, the Yogamaya covers Sandhini potency, that time the Samvit potency is present fully. And when she works under complete guidance of Ladini potency, she is also 100% present, then it is known as the spiritual world, then it is known as the complete understanding of the absolute truth. So Kalpanic understanding, when you say Kalpanic, yes, in the spiritual world, Mother Yashoda calls Krishna in a Kalpanic way only, actually. When she calls out Krishna, please come here. So that way is, she's thinking that Krishna is different from his name. So that is a beautiful part. So Mayavadis cannot understand this. That's why when Ramachandra Puri, when Madhavendra Puri was calling, hey Krishna, where are you, where are you? So this calling out of Krishna, had Yogamaya not covered Madhavendra Puri, he would have known there is no separation possible. That Krishna is always present in Vrindavan, he is always present in the holy names. So how can you say that Krishna is different, having a different, there is a separation. So Ramachandra Puri, being a Mayavadic understanding, he was making fun of Madhavendra Puri. He was saying, why are you saying like this? Hey Krishna, where are you? Why are you where I want you? I am separating from you. I am separation from you. Why are you saying like that? When you say Krishna, Krishna is there, no. He's Brahman. He's present everywhere. In the holy name also, he's not different. Actually, you have to understand that. Why are you thinking like that? Oh, he's there here. Why are you crying? So he has not understood this Yogamaya's potency. So Madhavendra Puri chastises him. You nonsense fellow. You don't know anything about anything. What are you saying? You don't know. Please get out, because I can't explain all these things now here while I'm dying. Please get out. What can I explain now at this point? So how can he explain all this tattva to Ramachandra Puri at the time of it? He said, please go out of my feeling. Because he's overcome by Ladini potency also at this point. He's overcome by ecstasy also. So this person is thinking, Krishna is everywhere. Why is he feeling separation from Krishna? What is this nonsense, feeling separation from Krishna? Krishna is present everywhere. Why is he having Kalpanic understanding of Krishna? The Krishna is somewhere else and I am somewhere else, and he's saying Krishna, but Krishna is not there, and he's calling out for Krishna, and Krishna is immediately present when he calls out for Krishna. Then why is he saying that Krishna come, again he's calling out for Krishna? That is because Yogamaya's potency, and that completes Krishna. That completes the Krishna's understanding. So Akrura, what he's saying is that, oh my Lord, although these things are from the Sat aspect, when we see that these things, you are non-different from your holy names and your form and everything. So in that sense, when you understand that these Kalpanic forms don't exist in the Brahman aspect. So he's very clear, Brahman. So that's the Brahman realization only. It's a very inferior realization of Krishna. So in Brahman realization, these things don't exist. But in the material world, it's impossible to address you otherwise, without Kalpanic forms. Like when we say, when Gajendra says, hey Krishna, hey Adi Bijam, please come. So when he's saying, Adi Bijam, please come, Gajendra. So how can that relation happen? How can you come? Because Adi Bijam, Krishna himself is immediately present. So what are you calling Krishna? Why Krishna has to come separately from air and he has to come down? So all this is, what is this? So that means Gajendra called in a Kalpanic way. That he is attributing a name to Krishna and he thinks Krishna is different from his name and he's calling out, please come. Original Krishna, please come. As if name is attributed to Krishna. So that's a Kalpanic way of addressing Krishna. Right, it's a Kalpanic way of addressing Krishna, but that Kalpanic way is because of Yogamaya. That Kalpana way exists because of Yogamaya potency of Supreme Personality of Godhead. And because, although Gajendra knows that Krishna is not different from his name, that is covered by Yogamaya, and he is actually calling out Krishna. And Krishna also reciprocates. He comes in a form, and then in that form he actually helps Gajendra and he rescues Gajendra. So this understanding is a Kalpanic understanding, though it exists in the material world, it's a superior understanding to the Brahmanic understanding. So it's a superior understanding to the Aishwarya of understanding. So in Vaikuntha, the Lord's opulences are known. So that's a problem in Vaikuntha. It makes Vaikuntha inferior to Goloka. So the whole point that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Prabhupada is stressing is that when you understand the absolute understanding of Krishna, unless it is covered by another potency of Lord Krishna, which makes the Kalpanic understanding possible in the spiritual world also, unless this potency is present, you might say that, oh, the Kalpanic understanding, actual understanding is this is Kalpanic understanding. But how we look, which is the actual truth, is that when this energy is missing, this energy is missing. So only 1/3 energy is present in that full understanding. So this energy is also an energy of the Lord by which everything is forgotten. The forgetfulness comes from Krishna. That energy of Lord by which we are able to forget things, when that energy is missing, it's incomplete Krishna. So the Kalpanic understanding completes Krishna. Without the forming of this Samvit energy, everything is incomplete. So we have to understand the absolute truth is when the Sat energy or the existence energy of Krishna, where Krishna is non-different from everything else, is covered in progressive layers of complete layers. Completely, finally, it's covered by the Samvit energy of Krishna, which is also 1/3 energy of Krishna. And when that energy is completely controlled and covered by the Ladini energy, when this cognizance is completely joined by the pleasure potency of the Lord, and the pleasure potency and cognizance potency, they act together, and only then they complete the absolute truth. Without these two energies being present, or their absence indicates that the absolute truth is incomplete. So we only think in terms of existence. Brahma Jyoti, these people don't understand the knowledge. They don't understand pleasure. That there is separate potencies for pleasure. There is separate potencies for knowledge. They don't understand. They think that only thing is existence. So when existence is covered, that means something incomplete is there. No, the covering of existence itself completes existence, because there is a separate potency known as covering potency also. So that completes. So the existence is not the only potency. Brahma Jyoti realization is only existence. The Lord's existence, how he exists, how his names are non-different from him, how his names are non-kalpanic from him. All this is existence. So they don't realize that there is another potency which also exists, which is nothing to do with the existence potency, but which is the knowledge potency. And there is another potency which is separate from the knowledge potency, and that is known as the pleasure potency. When these two potencies, people don't have understanding of these two potencies, they only know one potency, and they think that anything covering of this potency means there is some kind of a problem, or they think that something is incomplete by covering this potency. They don't really covering this potency by superior potency means this extra thing is being added on this, on one more layer is added on this. That covering layer. So that completes, because these layers are completing the absolute truth. So that's why Brahman realization is incomplete realization, whereas the Paramatma realization is more better, because it got 100% Brahman plus it has got knowledge about Brahman. And then the Golok realization is complete because it has got 100% Sat energy present, 100% Chit energy present, and 100% Ladini energy present. So that completes. So Kalpanic form is a superior form. It completes the supreme absolute truth. So that's what we have to understand. So why do the Vedas sometimes glorify Krishna with the Sat energy only? Because Otherwise, what happens, because these two energies in the material world, they cover the jivas by Rajoguna and Tamoguna. These two energies are very dangerous when they transform. So the whole idea of Vedas is to understand this energy directly in the material world, to remove these two energies. So that is the purpose of the Vedas. So sometimes we feel that the Krishna is also like a material world, because in this material world everything is covered. Na? So Rajoguna and Tamoguna, we are also covered by Rajoguna and Tamoguna. We think Krishna is also a product of Rajoguna and Tamoguna. We think like that. So that's why the Vedas say, no, Krishna is Sat. His names are different from our names. He's completely absolute. So that time the Sat aspect or Sandhini aspect is stressed very much by the Vedas to show that Krishna is different from us. He's not like us. Okay. So to show that point, this particular thing is stressed. Sandhini energy is stressed. In the Vedas, so they are to sometimes glorify Krishna in that form, that you are the absolute, you have got no qualities, you have got no this, everything is one with you, everything, whole universe is one with you. The Sandhini aspect is of Krishna is elaborated in this point. And that's why this whole point. Otherwise, with the Rajoguna and Tamoguna, we think that he's also like Rajoguna, Tamoguna, so we think he's also like us only, like an ordinary soul, he's also there. So we think like that. So just to kind of remove these two things, that they glorify the Sat aspect. But then is superior energy of Krishna, Sandhini and Ladini, which are covering Krishna also beautifully. But that covering of the Krishna completes Krishna. It doesn't incomplete Krishna. It doesn't drag Krishna to a material platform. It completes Krishna. Krishna is blissfully happy by these various coverings, and he's enjoying this happiness. And these are his potencies also, and these potencies are very much stressed. And then we understand the spiritual realm of Golok Vrindavan, where all three potencies have to exist. Sandhini has to exist. It should be completely covered by Samvit, and it has to be completely predominated by Ladini. Only then we can say the absolute truth exists in completeness. Otherwise, something is missing.